Hello my fellow jellyfish, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will paint the jellyfish that I have drawn in the previous video. I do have a scanned version on my Ko-fi, and if you want to paint along, you can get that version for free. The link is in the description. In this video, I will show you how to paint wet in wet, wet on dry, and give you my thoughts about this painting. I am taping down my paper to keep the work more flat. Working with a lot of water might warp your paper. The tape also gives a nice frame to work in. If you want to work wet in wet a lot, another way you can keep the piece flat is to wet the back of the piece thoroughly and put it on a flat surface. I'm also going to use some drawing gum, masking fluid. The masking fluid is a rubbery substance that keeps the parts underneath it white. I use it often for stars or highlights. Use a cheap brush that you will not use for anything else though, because it will be ruined by the masking fluid. I had a brush that I did not like anyway, and I noticed that the hairs are clumped together now and the brush feels rubbery itself. You can also use a dotting tool. Mainly gonna use this palette. This is a Van Gogh palette. And Art Nouveau uses a lot of greens, more muted colors, but you can do whatever. I'm probably going to use this green. I wanted to challenge myself, so I chose for more cool colors as the base. I usually use a lot of warm colors, so this was quite a challenge for me. I used turquoise green, cobalt blue, aquamarine blue, phthalo green, pale green, deep green, orange, and yellow ochre. Because jellyfish can be any color. If you look at the green, just get a green in there. Let's go for blue-green. That's the key color. You can use red-orange, red, orange, yellow-orange, and red-violet. Those are the most interesting colors to use with that. I diluted some cobalt blue, which I wanted to use as my background color. It started out a lot brighter than I anticipated. I tried to keep the brush pretty wet, and where I stopped, the brush left a drop of paint, so I could continue with a fresh load on my brush. With this painting, the tentacles will divide the background into tiny pieces, so you have to paint around it. Then with phthalo green, I am painting the inner circle. I do this to give the background some time to dry up and to keep busy with the piece at the same time. I do not have a lot of patience, and it can be a disadvantage to watercolor. Sometimes you just need to wait, step away, and let it do its thing. If you need a diluted color, you see me putting some water in one of the holes of the palette and put some pigment into the color. I also use it for mixing different colors together. But if I know I want to use the more intense color, I put some drops into the pan of paint itself and work from there. I actually put cobalt blue to paint the outer circle. but I later changed my mind on the color. It was too close to the background color, so later you can see me painting over it. If you think you are done with a certain color but you have some of the paint left, do as I do and mix something else in it. In my case I used yellow ochre and got a muted green color that I used to paint the seaweed in the middle of the circle. A lot of artists will advise you to mix your own greens, blacks and greys. This is because there are so many different shades, you cannot have them all. And what is better than creating your own shade from a palette you have before you? I did not like the color just yet, so I used the wet and wet technique to create some variation. I put some yellow ochre on my brush, and while the paint on the seaweed was still wet, I put a new color into the old paint. You need to work quite fast because the paint can dry quite quickly. I also used a paper towel to lift some of the color. If you think a color is too intense or you made a mistake, take a paper towel and carefully let it soak up the paint. To put a complementary color in there, I went for yellow ochre to paint the smallest circle and the space in between the circles within the circles. And because I already used yellow ochre in the seaweed, it creates more harmony in the painting. I put some turquoise green on the outer circle to color correct it a bit. It looked a lot better with the difference in color compared to the difference before with the background color. The base of the jellyfish is a very light blue. I already had the blue on my palette and I very lightly painted the head. The inner part of the jellyfish I wanted to be a lot darker to get the focus on that part. The entire piece is fairly light, so a spot of darker color will catch the eye. The effect would have been better if I used wet and wet here. I used not enough water and the middle was bigger than I expected. To get that flowy look a bit more, you should use more water, but I later corrected it with some difference. This painting is brought to life by you and donations on Ko-fi. If you haven't heard of it, Ko-fi is a simple way to support creators with a small one-time donation, like buying a virtual coffee. But those coffees do add up and go directly into more paper, paints, and actually the time needed to create these videos. When you contribute, you're not just watching, you're a collaborator fueling this art. If you have a relaxing time and would like to help bring more worlds like this to life, please consider supporting the channel on my Ko-fi page. Every donation helps me keep creating. The link is in the description. I had some diluted yellow ochre on my palette and I diluted even more and I painted more of the jellyfish. I kept lifting the paint with my paper towel to get the hint of yellow, but not have it too much. I also put yellow ochre on the edge of the jellyfish head as well. I wanted the edge to curve more by using a denser color. I also go back in with the dark blue and also painted tentacles and oral arms. To create some shadow, I used a bit more aquamarine blue, and I put it in all the spots I thought would be the most in shadow. On the right side, under the side of the oral arms, and underneath the head are the most common places. I put some color in the small circles. It's one of the greens that I already had. I try to keep the amount of colors limited. Making every circle a different color would be chaotic, for example. And grabbing colors that you used before will keep the harmony in the painting. I used some more turquoise green and aquamarine blue to fill in the other circles. Those halos you usually see around Art Nouveau are very distinct and I love them so much. They really give a character to the piece. Not every Art Nouveau piece has a circle like that, but I see them used a lot more with current day people who like to make Art Nouveau. It is up to you to decide when to work on details. Some people do it at the end, some people only suggest detail. I do it whenever, so I grabbed more aquamarine blue and a small brush and started to make lines down the jellyfish head. The paint had dried at that point, and because I was using a very light hand, the lines got broken at certain points. It is almost a stippling way of adding paint. I also drew the lines in the dark parts and created a way for the eye to follow the shape a bit more. The more lines suggest the surface is curved, the more convinced your brain will be that it is indeed curved and a 3D object. I am finally using some orange. Orange is the complementary color of blue, just as red will be the complementary color of green. Because the colors are on the other side of the color spectrum, the colors will be enhanced by each other. Blue will become more rich in the company of orange. Because the paint is already dry in most parts of the painting, you can take a look at your piece. Are you satisfied with the colors? I went back in with paint in some spots to intensify the colors. I even redid the background because I thought the jellyfish was blending in too much and made the background a bit darker. I eventually decided the jellyfish had to get more yellow, so I grabbed a fresh paper towel and started dabbing yellow ochre at spots. I mainly did the oral arms and the end of the tentacles. I did not want to do the entirety of the jellyfish, but I wanted to add some more interesting color changes. Because I kept mixing the blue and yellow, I got an interesting light grey color that I found interesting for the piece. The jellyfish looks almost white compared to the other colors, but you can still see some color variations there. The border I made green, a dark green, to border off the light parts. And you can see how the jellyfish stands out at the part where it overlaps the green border. I grabbed my pearlescent green here and put some on the small circles. I wanted to have some extra shine in there. Because I find it difficult to simulate such shine, I use this paint. It is not necessary for your piece, and while it is subtle on camera, this pearlescent green adds a beautiful shimmer in person, and especially when the light catches it. I added the last details. Put some more blue in the shadow side, add some more dots and lines on the head, and put more detail in the seaweed. You might ask yourself, when is it done? When is it finished? When do you consider a piece completed? It really depends on what your idea of completed is. Some people want to put every hair on the lion. Some people really like a loose flow and do not do a lot of details. I heard the great tip that if your colors seem to get really muddy, then you have overworked your piece. So prevent any muddy colors if you like to have a clear piece. The following part is optional, but it is something I use a lot in my pieces. I have fine liners which range from a size 005 to a size 08. I use those fine liners to emphasize the painting. The subject and what's on the foreground will get the thickest lines, while the parts on the background and finer details will get the finest lines. You can get the same idea when you use a very fine brush and paint to paint these lines as well. And we are reaching the end of this piece. I had a lot of fun working on this jellyfish, and it is proudly hanging on my wall at the moment. Which art piece has made you proud, and did you make anything that you kept in your own home? Please tell me in the comments. It's time to take the tape off and see the result. The fact that I made everything in mostly green and blue really helps, and with a little bit of yellow ochre and orange to make it pop. Really love it. If you like it as well, please give it a like and subscribe. I have a lot of other things that I want to do. Next up, I am trying to learn how to paint gold in watercolor, so see you there. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, please press the like button and subscribe to my channel. I will see you in the next video.
Let us follow the starlight and float into the next day. Let's end this now in the night and find our own special way. Goodbye, my dear, see you next time till we meet.